Greetings and salutations, travelers. Welcome back to the Inn of Planar Crossroads. And again, kind of, because we are here still at Avenue Studios. This is going to be our second filming for the Around the Hearth. And this time we are discussing characters through various systems. And this should be perfectly tying in to what we talked about last time. Hopefully we'll get some good blooper-sodes along with that. So you'll be able to get all the behind the scenes of us jibber-jabbering also. Before we begin, let's do announcements. So we have, just like last time, we've got Jacob, Dan, and our special guest, who doesn't always get to make it to our stuff, Zechariah. And myself, of course, Adam from the Inn of Planar Crossroads. They're all from Avenue Studios. And you guys got any announcements that you want to do? It's coming out in August.
Okay. Life is good. Life is good in future August.
Oh, good. Mm-hmm. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully that means that our Twitch stream is going well since Zech is happy. So, yeah, that's, I think, the biggest thing. Will be end of June, beginning of July. We'll be beginning our first Twitch live stream with Jacob running Pathfinder 2e Beginner Box. And hopefully it'll just keep going from there. We'll hope to have Adam on there. But, yep, we're on YouTube, Rumble, podcasts, anywhere you can find them. And this is our studio. Soon there will be many knickknacks. We've got our little guy over there, but there's a lot coming, and
it's their studio on the avenue.
Yes. And who knows where that avenue leads. Sometimes you come to an end.
Maybe it exists in many universes.
They do.
Okay, that's not an announcement. That's our preamble.
That's awesome.
But
yep, that's
so
us.
we're good with that. Y'all's announcement's done. Hopefully by August, our stuff will be fixed with the webpage. Maybe even more updates to the icons and things. But we're going with black and white first and then slowly progressing it up so you guys can see it go from black and white to then a marble galaxy background. Black and white marble galaxy background. And then the emblems will turn gold, and I'm not sure if that's happened by now. So we'll see.
Awesome.
But that's all I really have. Remember, you can support both of us on Patreon. Mm-hmm. You can support them on Locals, me on Subscribestar, maybe on Locals also. We'll see. I got asked about it. And hopefully, again, with the webpage, it will have a PayPal button. Because when you support the Inn of Planar Crossroads, it doesn't matter if you support once or if you support forever. You get access to the Discord and then all of the PDF material that we release. It gets shared there. So, there you go. That's what I got. So I think it's time that we all sit around our artificial hearth.
That's totally legit.
Totally legit. Definitely real fire. And grab your preferred beverage.
Cool.
Ding. And join us while we discuss characters through various TTRPG systems. All right. I will let me see. We will let Jacob go because he's been.
I love many systems. I will play and learn any system, but I do also love recreating the same character in every system to the best of my ability. So it's really fun to try out different systems. Now, I've mentioned in the last segment we did here about a particular half-orc. He has been created in every system I've ever tried. It's something I do. It's very interesting to see how that goes across. It doesn't always work out smoothly, but there's usually ways to do it where it works out, where you stay within the core rule systems of whatever it is. But it does work out well because you already have history built in for the character. Now, sometimes the lore doesn't fit well and you got to change some of that stuff, but it's not a big deal. But stat-wise, it is a lot of fun to do, and if you have a character that you bounce around between systems, it gives you a basis to work off of. You don't have to try to come up with a character on the spot or whatever it may be, and then you just go from there. I mean, examples, I have Savage Worlds, Pathfinder 1st, 2nd edition, D&D 5th edition, D&D 3.5, I've dabbled in OSR. I've even tried making a half-orc character, a humanoid character, in systems that don't have half-orcs. And that's always interesting to, try to like even change their race a little, because some systems don't have half orcs, you know, or you're only humans, and so it's a lot of fun to bounce around to different settings and systems and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't find it challenging. I find it fun. I find it a good way to test the system, you know, with whatever it is you have in your mind. And for me, it's usually when I open a system. You know, I picked up Genesis system the other day at the role-playing store, and I did, and I was like, instantly was like, how do I make Krusk? How do I make my half orc? And flipping through, and so it's a quick way as you're reading books, you're reading your core manuals or rule books or whatever they're called in every system, and you're just like instantly like statting out the character because you know the character, you know, and so it's fun for me to do that.
I think when we're talking about characters between different systems, we're talking about two things at the same time. We're talking about translating the character mechanically and translating the character thematically.
Right.
So really, mechanics work out. It's the thematic portion that you're looking for.
Right.
Because, like you said, not every system is going to be conducive to, like, your half-orc being a half-orc. But he can still be brutish or things like that.
Anger, whatever, however you wish to play that out. And then you can usually twist the backstory to fit in with whatever's there canonically. Usually. Well, when you're jumping from system to system, especially doing like gods and deities, there's usually one that comes close if there is if your character is attached to a particular deity or god, that you can be like, oh, okay, that god makes sense for this universe.
Right.
And a way you can get around that is the cleric that I like best is called Ari Prayer Master. He's a tiefling, can't always play a tiefling, but he doesn't have a specific deity that he follows. He follows all deities of healing because he's purposefully a healbot. That's his point. He's a pacifist healbot. That's how I made him. And he uses summon creature to do other things like protect him and things like that. Or that really nice spell from Pathfinder and D&D that is, what is it? Ancestral Guardians or something like that. Oh, Sanctuary. You're protected.
Yes.
And they have to make saves to even try to attack you. That's good. I like that one too. But the idea of, like with you said, deities, even if the setting doesn't have deities, I could turn him into, like, I don't know if, I guess World of Darkness has deities. So maybe a different one. Like, there's the Force in Star Wars, but that doesn't really count, I don't guess. That's a lot more like Dharma than it is.
There's definitely Force traditions that will treat it, you know, high reverent spiritual aspect, and healing is tricky, but there are ways of doing it.
Well, in like a sci-fi setting like that, even one without specific deities, he could be a medical professional, pacifist medical professional, who calls in other people to help him with different things. Might be a way to.
I'm smiling because of what Zach said, and it's like, there are ways to heal.
That they do not teach you in the Jedi Academy.
Sorry, anyways, that's where my mind went.
You know, Zechariah was going full Palpatine on there.
Yeah.
Like, oh boy. I mean, as much flack as the prequels get, they were still all right, especially compared to what.
I know.
So dodge that bullet. So I'll start by touching on the mechanic side, because you said we really are talking about two different things. There's thematic and there's mechanics. So when you're changing between settings and the mechanics are vastly different, it allows you to have a wonderful time rebuilding a character and saying, what does this new system afford for that character? You can start dreaming, well, if my character was in a world where, was in a world where things are a little bit more powerful, and you're amping stuff up and the mechanics represent that bigger thing, you can dream big. Or you could kind of dial back to the basics. So I think when you think about it, like when you're transferring from a crunchy system, like a 3.5 kind of thing, or 3.0, and you're going to something like Open Legends or a GURPS system, and you're going from crunchy to soft, you get to say, well, what are all of these wonderful like extensions of the powers and ability. I've been so locked down to I can only do these few spells, these few ways. And now it's like I get to freely interpret and flesh out my character, thinking about all of the different new possibilities and ways I can attain the effects my character is supposed to produce. It's very, very fun. When you go from a soft system like Open Legends into something that's like hard and crunchy like 3.5, all of a sudden now you're like, well, I have to dial it into what is the most important. All this flashy stuff that they've done, but now they've really got to lock it down. What is my character? Are they a fighter? Are they a paladin? Are they a wizard or a sorcerer? You have to dial it down, pick the things that represent them the most, and let the soft system that you're coming from be the other flavorful elements. There's nothing that says you can't flavor your hard and fast spells and components your own way, but you have to really make a lot of judgment calls on what matters the most to you, what is going to feel the best playing it.
Mm-hmm. I've got a character, Killian, that we were talking about earlier, who I've played in multiple systems. And I was just thinking about what you guys were saying too. He was originally created in 5e as a warlock, Pact of the Tome. And he's just obsessed with learning because his parents have disappeared and because he was an orphan, But
how many orphans have you played?
His parents are still alive. He just doesn't know what happened.
Depends on what world you play in, right?
Right, yeah. And then later on, I ended up playing with Great Mustache. Shout out to the Great Mustache on Twitch in his game. And I was like, you know what? I haven't played Killian anymore. I loved the character. I loved his personality and the way he did things. He's chaotic and... so I thought I'm going to make him an open legend, and I ended up, because open legend is open, but the thing for Killian, I realized is like, how am I going to, because the mechanics in 5e defined how I built him and kind of helped me create the personality for him. And being the Pact of the Tome, he's almost more like a wizard, so he got lots more spells. He can gain more spells, even though he's a warlock. But having the warlock, so everything's at your highest power spell level when you're casting. You don't have the different levels to it. That kind of influenced how I built him, and then I moved to Open Legend, and I was like, the thing for him is he's obsessed with learning because he's searching. He needs to know how to find his parents. So I wanted to keep that thematic part of the character going through. So I gave him learning and logic in Open Legend, but I was like, the magic could manifest itself. That didn't need to carry over. So I was actually struggling at first with how to build it, and then I happened to just be searching for images, for the VTT, and I saw this image and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Killian. But he was like glowing with light and he had these like angelic wings, and that's very different from how I was playing him in 5e. And I was like, okay, maybe he's just been attached, and Mustache was great working on developing this deity that fit because he was building the world with our characters.
Well, I mean, in 5e, warlocks can be attached to pretty much anything.
Right, I know, it's very flexible.
We associate warlock with dark packs, but it could be a light pack.
Yeah, and mine was, I was tied to a god of knowledge or something, a deity of knowledge, so it wasn't a dark warlock at all. But he did kind of like, he'd experiment on people because he just wanted to learn. It didn't matter. Yeah,
he even dabbled in alchemy.
Yeah, he did that. He did everything. So that's what I ended up doing. But then he had energy in Open Legend, and it was really cool to have this same theme. It's the same personality. It's the same theme of he's trying to find his parents. They're lost, and so he's obsessed with knowledge. But the way his powers were manifesting in these different systems, that was changing. I did have him pop in as an NPC when in the Kingmaker campaign when I ran for a guest little thing on Zach. That was a little easier to swap over because Pathfinder and D&D are so close, so he still felt the same. So, and then the other thing he had a familiar, a fairy, Pippa. And so that was real. Of course, in Open Legend, I knew right how to do that. I created a companion. But then in Open Legend, Pippa took on this whole new aspect because with Open Legend and companion, you have a mini character sheet.
Right.
Versus in 5e, she just had like the little thing she could do where I could like cast spells through her, stuff like that. And this way, so actually it was cool to do that then because now this aspect of the character where Pippa was assigned to him by this deity rather than as a warlock, it was his familiar. She started taking on a personality and she became this whole other character, and I just fell in love with her as her own individual thing. So that's something too about hopping through the systems and reimagining the character, but keeping those core things that make it. Because he still was Killian. Like Jake hopped in for he played Krusk in that game.
I did. That's why it's funny too.
And so it's like we kind of played with that Killian exists in multiple universes. Like it's a multi-universe setting, and he just is always looking for his parents in all the universes that he appears.
We need to build him in Savage Worlds now.
I know we should do that. That would be fun.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to having going to another system actually bringing depth and new aspects to the character without changing who the character was at the core.
One of the characters that I've put in probably the most systems currently in Star Wars, his name is Kyle, but he's been
I know Kyle. Is that Kyle?
It's that Kyle. That Kyle has been Crest in the Cthulhu Tech campaign that I did, and he's been Kyle DeLander in Pathfinder and another 5e thing, and he's also was kind of the personality basis for our holiday special character, where I did the Jinn.
Mm-hmm.
And the good Jinn.
The good Jinn, as opposed to what you're doing with this. And different elements of that help inform and grow and progress the character. The character is a kid. He is obsessed with this idea that he belongs in another world. So whatever world he's in, it's something that's bigger. And as I play, the version of him that exists in each of the different settings, certain things inform and grow the character, and that's good because he's a kid and kids need to grow. He's kind of aged up a bit in some and down a bit in others, depending on where I've translated him. But to find ways to make the theme fit has been the funnest part. In Star Wars, he's starts out very focused on being into animals, into mechanics. Eventually he becomes the party healer because that's just how he's trying to fit into the role, and I play him just like a little bit that have a laser focus on things, a little bit withdrawn and focused obsessively on the mechanics and the details and struggling to make connections with our characters. But that came out of playing him in Cthulhu Tech, where you had to have a character had to have an obsession, a compulsion, a fix they had to have. There I decided that it was going to be speeding about in his mech. So connecting to this mech, which was kind of part animal and part technology, and it was obsessive, and so we had to have this focus. And I'm like, how do I transfer that to Star Wars, where you don't have mechs and you don't really have animal companions? And so I'm like, well, a ship. And animals could be creatures on board that ship. That obsession could be this withdrawn backstory where he's kind of inside himself, and I had to have gave opportunity to other players to help break him out of that shell. And the idea of what do I do with this longing to belong somewhere else became a piece to another character, which was his sister. And so I took the one character, I actually translated them into two, because that was how I could best communicate what I had in one setting into two. And I took some of the elements and made Kyle, and took the other half of the elements, the wildness, the impulsiveness, I need to get my speed fix, longing for another world, and that became Tara. now I've propagated my characters by moving in between systems. This is how some things propagate.
Well, it's interesting. That's Tara is what split off in the translation into Star Wars universe. Yeah. So does the Star Wars universe have the idea of a split soul? Or things like that? Like, does the Force transfer through split souls? Because if this is a reincarnation idea between universes, it's each reincarnation he's learning different things to become perfect.
Well, with my Star Wars, I usually keep that one very isolated from the connections between the stories, because Star Wars is kind of its established universe, whereas fantasy you can kind of fluff things a little bit easier, I think. But I don't play it as though they are the same person in other things, but just I know they're a go-to character. They're an archetype that they represent that I want to play, and so rebuilding it, taking it's kind of what you said, what this system offers helps to grow and inform the character.
But I did like that idea of splitting characters and having like the reincarnation, soul splitting, but they also have a connection now. That's kind of a cool way to experience systems that were, for me, Open Legend is a very powerful system. And to put it to some other system, you might have to break up a character, especially if you start getting into the higher level play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
we were talking earlier, it's very easy to make a very powerful character in Open Legend.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to make a healer, dump everything into creation and you can heal forever. I like playing healers, so I like to play support. So it doesn't bother me that I can make an absolutely broken healer in that. But Ari Prayer Master is not nearly as powerful in... Well, I mean, he's still powerful. He's a cleric. Clerics are powerful. People just underestimate clerics. But that's beside the point. He's not as powerful in Pathfinder 2e, or he's not as powerful in D&D 5e, or anything like that if he ever gets translated. That's fine. And actually brings me to a thing I thought of when you were talking about your translation from the Pixie translation from 5e, or what was it?
Yep, 5e.
And the way that the companion changed when it went to the other universe. You can play with that if you have a hub, like the Planar Crossroads, or another intermediary hub world for your universe, for your connection of your multiverse. So as you're traveling through that multiverse, making those in your head, that can be the iteration. This iteration is this translation of this character. But your character split up, I mean, in my head, if I was doing it that way, in that hub universe, Kyle split apart when he went to that universe, when he iterated into that universe. And so there's two, they're linked together as twins. And that plays up that idea so that when he dies or something like that and goes back to what, like in Hindu belief, there's the Dharma, that everybody goes back to, both Hindu and Buddhism stem from the same thing. So roots on the same tree. And they go back and go back to be with the Dharma when you're perfect. Well, not exactly the same for tabletop, but you have that root tree, that single thing that they feed back into. The character can then be like, oh, I remember that life. I'm moving into a different life to do this now. Or I'm being sent here by this person from your greater power, or whatever you want to say, if you want to build out a universe around it.
Makes you feel very powerful if you think about it.
Yeah.
I create worlds. I destroy worlds.
I mean, we do. We actually talked about that earlier this week, about how, for me, tabletop games has made me stronger in my faith because of the way I'm able to correlate those lessons. So of how God understands the universe and how he's the greatest game master, and he's presented us with a system of rules and law and we have the law book, we have the rule book, and as long as it's meant to be played by the rules, and he has GM discretion to show mercy and prefer it over sacrifice. But that's another discussion. If you guys want to hear a religious discussion about tabletop RPG and stuff like that, maybe if we have time later. But we still got two other things.
We are going to have this conversation. I'm all in on this conversation.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, so staying focused.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can actually play that up if you do have your own kind of hub universe that others stem off of.
Right.
Playing up that as drama for your character. Like when your character returns to the true universe, they remember their past universe, the experiences they've had. They don't have to be max level. That may not have been the point of going to that universe. The point of going to that universe was to experience this.
Well, and I think about that with the way I've been doing Killian, and I want to bring him back too. His ultimate goal is finding his parents.
And they may be in a different universe.
Right.
Incarnated in a different universe or placed in a different universe at that time.
Right. And it's the idea that he has to go out into all these places, and where it's kind of fun for me as a player too, waiting for the moments where I can bring him out and being like, which system, which setting is it going to be where he finally accomplishes his goal? Will it ever happen? Is he just caught in this perpetual thing? And having, with Mustache's game, having Krusk, the same character, come in that had been playing with my original Killian, Mustache let us kind of play with it a little bit, and it's like we felt like we knew each other.
Yeah.
And there was like this weird, like, we couldn't explain it. We didn't want to bring any details in because we didn't want to mess with JP's canon for his world. But it's a fact of like, there's some connection there. I know you. We've done this before. We've been seeking these things before.
Well, I bring up Pippa especially because you said Pippa became more powerful in the Open Legend universe.
She was alteration based in Open Legend.
Anything that is alteration based is broken. I'm just saying. That's why it's a narrative game and you self-limit. That's the point of Open Legend. But think about it. Pippa may not want to go to certain universes with him because Pippa may realize, I don't work. I don't exist there. Don't go, Killian. I don't want to go there.
Man, like a Cthulhu world or something. No, I'm just thinking, because I've always wanted to play a Cthulhu game, and I haven't gotten to it. And it's like,
so in that
you can't do that mechanically.
Yeah,
to have a fairy with you.
In the Session Zero hub universe.
Well, okay. Again, I have limited experience.
Your character has a fairy.
But that fits in, doesn't it?
That's a bad idea.
Of course, everybody has a fairy.
Everybody has a fairy. That's really good, though. But there's where the setting and the mechanics of the setting you bring it to is evolving the character. That's awesome.
But I love the idea of picturing Pippin pulling you from, like, going into that realm. Like, right.
No. Oh, my gosh. The Cthulhu character is always imagining this fairy being like, you got to leave. You can't be here anymore.
Well, how does that change somebody? How does that, if the hub universe for translating your characters back and forth narratively represents the Session Zero, an actual role-played conversation can happen between characters.
Interesting, yeah.
And it helps you to transfer and inform the new one, so you don't feel like you're just kind of coming out of left field and making something.
So, like I said, Pippa may prefer to stay and may prefer to be spending a lot of time in the Open Legend universe because she has so much freedom and power there. But if she goes back to D&D 5e, she feels tight. She always feels heavy and constricted,
like a paper clip.
Yeah,
that's what we used for her on the board.
We did.
There you go.
Little paper clip.
Yeah.
So she always feels tight and twisted there.
Yeah.
And she just refuses to go, like, she doesn't want to go to the Cthulhu mythos, to the Lovecraftian universe, the Yog-Sothian universe, because bad things happen there and she might not come back the same. And you could actually carry over past experiences.
Oh, yeah.
With your characters.
Yeah.
One of the things that you had said about wondering when Killian will find his parents. My original character, going way back, his name was Aaron. He was originally made in the Lord of the Rings RPG. This guy introduced me to it, and he's like, he's my
downhill from there.
my OG character. And one of the things that campaign had was a flaw perk system, where you could take a flaw, and I was like, ooh, how about like you have like some like blood, wrath, anger kind of issues, and that gave me a perk, which was extra swings, and I'm like, man, that's pretty good. And then they're like, you can double up on that flaw, and you can just be like, once you go into battle, you just blood wrath, and you keep going until literally everything standing around you is no longer standing. And they give you more attacks, and I'm like, sign me up. This is the character's built around this idea.
Barbarian? You mean bloodbarian? I'm going to just.
There's no burying this mess. Are you kidding me? It's all over. It's on the ceiling.
Let the birds bury them.
So when I took that character to, had to completely reinvent it for every different setting, but every setting I would incorporate that. Some settings did not have a perk, have a flawed perk thing. So I just had to roleplay that element. No, my character doesn't get any perks or extra swings for having blood wrath. They just do that. And I think it was maybe my second or third iteration, whatever, but I've been playing the character around for a bit. They never had a healing moment. And then I played it with a person who was a shield maiden. And her thing was just a big old shield on each side and kept people safe. And, where this is great. Like, I was literally the swords, double swords. They were literally double shields. And we just wrecked place. It was epic. And then we got this dynamic where my character was hurting themselves over tragic losses, which is built in from the original story, and through the tragic mistakes of hurting teammates and such like that. And we had this moment where in order to stop Aaron from just absolutely losing it and hurting himself and everyone around, the shield maiden just let him beat on her shields until he absolutely ran out of strength, and then she just gave him a bear hug and just compression blanketed him until he calmed down. And that was that first healing moment. And I have not played the character since. Because what set that character on that path and was built in from the one system and translated through other systems, it was resolved. And it was resolved because of how those mechanics worked and how they were able to calm him down and just having a great thematic moment. So I guess maybe it partially touches on this, just the idea of replaying a character, but the systems and translating them and reinventing it so many times made the character feel very real, and it made having a resolution like that very satisfying. I no longer have to seek it because he is happy now. He's found someone.
And that goes into, like, we were talking about character legacy last time. Why would a character stop adventuring? It was resolved.
Death.
Or they have a family, or death. So it's resolved one way or another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a goal is reached. If your character is seeking vengeance, what happens after the vengeance?
Yeah. Or if you're in a system where the thing to have vengeance on doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It almost makes me sad for Killian for the day he finds his mom.
Mom?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
that kind of makes it fun.
But it almost
though.
makes it, that's a beautiful resolving point. And as for you, what system is going to be and how is it going to play out really determines on who you end up doing it under. And that can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What's Krusk's goal or vision, or like what do you feel would satisfy and accomplish?
To live.
Well,
he's a
that's a good
druid
one.
style thing.
Yeah.
It's mostly a druid thing. So it's
It's
more...
a druid thing,
It's a druid thing.
Life.
He had life.
Just wants to
What
live.
is this goal you talk of?
It's
I'm here to live.
the wind pushes him in different places.
You should still be smoking your pipe.
I know, it's druid thing. No, but he didn't have an overarching goal. It was like he found he was on the path of like, well, I'm supposed to be here. There's something I'm supposed to do here kind of attitude. So he didn't have that yet. He had a little thing for a character, but, she kept shooting him in the bottom with an arrow on accident.
Sure.
It was his wife.
My wife's character, yes. She kept shooting me. Miserable.
Oops.
Yeah.
Just like in real life.
Well done.
Hey, 4 kids later, hard to complain.
Exactly.
I was thinking 2 ways with that too. You used Krusk as like it was an easy one to pick up if you have to pick something up.
Yes.
You know this character.
Yep.
And he may not have necessarily needed that ultimate goal.
No.
But having that, you could jump into a game really easy.
Yep.
Because you knew what you were building.
Correct. And he was kind of the healer defender mix, druidic usually.
Yeah. However you could.
I twist him here and there if I needed to. Yeah, and he didn't have that hub essentially, but I kind of love that idea. So now I'm incorporating in my head. I'm thinking about how that plays out. Mm-hmm. But it really was the call of the wind and the whims and wherever he ended up. So he didn't have a resolving point, but that doesn't mean there couldn't be one.
Well, and that makes me think of
death.
Zach's character. You couldn't have ever guessed the shield made ending, so that wasn't necessarily an ultimate goal, and then all of a sudden you're there. Mm-hmm. And that makes it, I think, even more real.
It can't be recreated.
Yeah, and you as a player are experiencing almost the same thing that the character is experiencing, and like, I didn't foresee this, but this is what I was seeking.
And that's maybe what I'm waiting for with Krusk. And I love that. That would be fantastic for me.
To tie onto your wind thing, we were discussing earlier, so the hub world is one option, the hub thing, but also we were discussing light. Storm came through last night. Did its thing, real pretty, lots of lightning, and we were discussing lightning. And it's got you got the positive and negative up here, and they're trying to meet together and find the path of best equilibrium to make their come together and spark static stuff, basically. Well, we were discussing. I was like, well, yeah, but then what if it's the positive plane and the negative plane crossing around the natural material plane, and then in those planes, there's the positive seeking an equilibrium with the negative, and he brought up the little tendrils that start to come up from the ground where things are about to strike. Perhaps those are wrinkles in the reality, and then all of a sudden, snap! And someone's there that wasn't there before. Or there's a massive amount of burst of life, and this druid comes out, and he's looking around at where he is, trying to figure it out now.
Well, that's the thing. I've played him as a storm sorcerer before.
There
we go.
You're the one.
I'm stealing this now. I'm letting you know this is now mine. Like, I'm taking this.
That's how That's how the great deity force of nature across the plains sends him across the plains.
I love it.
Lightning storms.
That's it. Because that can be transferred to the sorcerer or druidic end of it, and that's really cool. Because he tends to lean towards those with a bit of a shield, which is nice because it's just a unique situation. It's just, I'm excited now.
Let's play games.
Let's go play. Let's go roll.
Sorry guys, we're gonna go
Bye.
have
No more
a 20-hour
recording for y'all.
adventure, and then we'll be back.
And we'll tell you about it afterwards.
Yeah, of course.
For another 20 hours.
Yeah.
Or something.
But no, I love that idea of having characters across all these settings and universes. And I like the idea of, too, like, maybe they don't always remember, but it comes back as a nightmare or a dream. You have that character wake up in the morning, and they're on a ship. They're like, I just had the wildest dream that, they're telling their shipmates. It's like, I just had a wild dream that I was doing this, X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you want to really embrace kind of the Yog-Sothothian thing. Maybe all of your characters...
Sorry.
All of your characters have a silver key.
Oh, well.
They just always end up with one. And their dreams are what they do in the other universes.
I think he likes it.
One should not have words like that roll off the tongue so smoothly.
I think he's well versed.
Well, it all works out.
Awesome.
Are you talking about Yog-Sothoth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to hear how I say Cthulhu when I'm role playing, like mind play, something that is supposed to say those words without saying them?
Right, we're just gonna make sure. Gonna keep.
I had tinfoil.
If I hear it, you go.
Yog-Sothoth Cthulhu. You don't move you let this stay still, so it's Yog-Sothoth Cthulhu. So you only use your tongue because octopuses have beaks. So you don't use your lips, you only use your tongue to make all the noises. Helps if you got some kind of ventriloquism or something. I don't. But if you do,
That's nice.
it's even better.
That is the power of a powerful imagination.
So
Awesome.
it does annoy people when I say Cthulhu instead of Cthulhu, though. For some reason.
The clicking of the beak.
If they take the moment to ask and you explain that to them, just be like, oh yeah.
Mind
They don't
blowing.
have lips, so they click. So it's Cthulhu. That's why you can't say it as a human, because you always go Cthulhu. You're using your lips, but it's Cthulhu.
Then they have to roll percentiles under their sanity score
Oh.
to save versus madness.
Yeah. Well, see, the truth is, we're all mad here. We're crossing universes now.
Oh, man.
Alice in Wonderland is going
Guys.
to encounter Lovecraftian thing. That would get so freaky.
Oh.
That's Dreamlands on LSD. So
It's like not fair.
I'm totally not going to just Google that while
That is pretty wild.
Characters crossed settings and systems can be very rewarding, as
Yeah.
we've talked about tonight. I feel like there were some great stories of that, and then kind of cool to see as we grow in channels and collaborations to revisit this in a couple of years and see what happens to some of these characters.
see what crossovers end up happening.
Right. Well, there's that too. Because we've talked about rebooting a little bit of Killian and Krusk and Azora. Mm-hmm. That would be fun for us, even in a different system. Might be entertaining.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm smiling.
I really like this idea of we all grab a legacy character and put them together into something.
I don't know. I think that'd be really cool to do.
Yeah.
Is
no,
that
I'm
what
totally
y'all
down.
are doing for 2E? Is that what's happening when you run the beginner box?
No. We got to do that with you.
Now it's going to have to be with
Let's.
you.
Yeah, we got to do a
let's-
legacy character live stream.
Legacy
Right?
character
Where
live
we all
stream.
bring in a
Yeah.
legacy character and run it together.
I'll figure it out. Do we? Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh no, he
There you
found
go.
it.
Well, that's like scary.
my son listens to the audiobooks I sometimes listen to while he's doing other stuff. Occasionally I'll just get the desire to run through something maddening, like the Cthulhu mythos. It shouldn't be called this. The Yog-Sothothean mythos, and it's interesting that he likes it because he's. I don't think he'd sit and listen to it by himself, because I offered to turn it on in the car, and he was trying to listen, but it was not all that loud, so he couldn't. But he showed it to Jacob and everything. He found a little chibi Cthulhu, that little black chibi Cthulhu.
Yeah, that thing's awesome.
Yeah. That's
He also
pretty
said it was you. So
fun. Oh yeah.
He grabs
No.
the tentacles. It's just like my dad.
just like that.
Well, not quite. Not quite. See, I'm not sleeping. Oh. So
Makes it worse.
that makes it so much worse. So, characters across, coming through lightning storms, reincarnating through hub worlds, or just wandering into an inn sometime and finding themselves somewhere else. We hope your characters get to do that sometime. We're right about, we're a little over wrap-up time. So any final things?
Share your characters with us.
I know. Yeah.
Share your stories. Share your legacies. Tell us your families. All of it.
Yeah.
How many times have you crossed over systems? I mean, I love it. So
How many times have you crossed over? There you go. Asking questions that you don't necessarily want the answer to.
You always get what you asked for.
You always get what you ask for.
Just roll your percentile under your sanity score. Just
Thankfully, I've invested heavily in my sanity score.
So good.
I'm probably one of those dangerous, not cult leaders, but someone who's studied the occult and Cthulhu and is like, nope, I'm all right because my sanity score's high enough, or however that works. Maybe I'm just mad and don't know it. Never know. But characters across the systems, we hope you've enjoyed. And as always, travelers, have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.
They do.
Now, Dan,
Everyone's
I've
a
heard that the road goes ever on and on, down from the door where it began. Now far ahead the road has gone, and I must follow if I can, pursuing it with eager feet, until it meets some larger way, where many paths and errands meet, and whither then I cannot say. There you go.
Nice, boys.
Yeah, we got to do. Everything has a song to go with it.
Yeah.
Everything.